Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. This is episode 4 of 2025. Welcome back. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by FURIA once again, but today we are joined by a fresh guest, the head of production, the stream master of the LTA South currently. Rose, welcome in your feline form to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty sure RMC tricked me into this, so I'll have to have a message with them later.
Yeah, there was some mind games and some
we
verbal
go
traps going on in there.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're on the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're very happy to have you, of course. As we wrapped up our domestic split 1, it is now only playoffs remaining. We had the lower bracket played out. We could see it on our completed bracket in front of us, and our last 2 reps of the LTA South. Brazil finally catching up, getting over the line. 3rd and 4th, Loud and paiN. So, we have not lost all semblance of Brazilian League of Legends in the shuffle. It's still Loud and paiN. Don't worry, everybody. It's still Loud and paiN. And it is still Loud tripping up paiN at the final hurdle, which is poetic in itself, as they didn't even get a chance to do it last split. paiN was the champions, but where was Loud in the finals? Nowhere to be seen. What could have happened if it had gone a different way? Who we shall never know. So, let's talk about this. Let's break this one down a little bit. LLA had already swept into international play in the upper bracket. Leviathan and Israel's S leaving us in the dust. So we had Red and Loud to kick us off. We went right back into the depths of Brazilian League of Legends for the most Brazilian League of Legends possible matchup in terms of gameplay. And Loud ended up taking it with a 2-1. Now, this was a bit of a debate last week. We were wondering who was going to take it. I had the Loud 2-1. I don't remember 4-4. Did you have a Loud 2-1, or what was your final step on that? Over Red.
Over Red, yes, over Red. I
think you had
no.
Loud.
I said no. I think I had Loud, but I caveated it with like no outcome would surprise me if it was Red 2-0, Red 2-1, Loud 2-1, Loud 2-0. Like, and sure enough, I mean, it's crazy. I saw a stat that basically from a Red Canids fan account on Twitter that of their, like, they've been in essentially 6 straight either BO5 or BO3 game 5s or game 3s respectively.
Yeah.
And they have lost every single one since 2022. That they have been in a, hey, it's do or die time, game 3 to advance, game 5 to move on. They have lost every single one since 2022.
Dang. That's tough. And I kind of feel like Loud will have a pretty good record in the reverse of that one. When it goes to 5 games, they must have...
because they tend to just like have no business showing up in a series, but they just kind of will... There's just one good team. They do what they do. They do what Loud have done. This like weekend...
FURIA twice last split.
Stitched together with, chicken wire and bubblegum corpse of Loud, and they still keep doing it. And they got the 3 seed, which is hilarious.
It's so good, man. It's so good. Who wouldn't have it any other way? Rose, did you foresee a different outcome here, or were you a Loud truther all the way through?
I wasn't expecting anything different. I was very surprised at how well Red played on the game 1. They efficiently punished, Robo. They absolutely just overloaded Robo's lane, and I think just won through that. Bronzy and Root both played amazing games. They were both pretty much up there in terms of damage, in terms of kill participation. But it really was just that objective control and then just Red collapsing on Robo up there in the top lane that just prevented Robo on that Cho'Gath from, taking over the game. And I think Loud correctly adjusted in game 2 and 3, where they punished FNB instead and allowed Robo to get a little ahead. Of course, I'm not going to take away from, Root being a little too angry to die every now and then. And who was that? Tinones on the Silas on game 2 was absolutely going off and getting Red's number and putting them into the dirt, which is what I think allowed Loud to, cinch that spot in, the cross conference play.
Yeah. I always feel like
you need to, like, if Root gets his flowers all the time, and he should, and I think right now he is the best player representing a Brazilian team. Like, I don't think it's particularly close, but Tinones had a really good series as well, especially like you were saying, Rose, games 2 and 3. He got back to kind of this. I mean, like, Root steals the spotlight, but Tinones, it is noticeable when he is bad, and I feel like I didn't really notice Tinones, but in a good way, because he got back to being just Mr. kind of consistent. On again, we're off the AD meta, and he's not forced to be on Yone or Tristana or any of this BS. He is just back on his control mages. He's back on the Silas is a bit of a departure for him, but like you were saying, no, Tino's had a really good series as well.
That's the thing I've always liked about Tino's when he's on form, is like he's never, to me, well, that's not never, but it's been a while since he's been the mage benchmark in the region, but he's always had a little bit of extra variety in there that being a pro for more than 10 years gives you. Like the Cassio can always come out, the Swains can come out, we've seen the Silas come out here. There's just that little bit of extra value that Tino's can extract from a draft that I think gives Loud an edge there when he's on form, and he's by far no slouch in terms of a carry mid laner either. So it's good to see Tino's getting back to it. He did kind of start to struggle and look a little bit off at the end of last split, as Robo did, but So that was good, and yeah, Root has been just consistently just the centerpiece of Loud now for a good few splits, and is certainly still in that position, that's for sure. And I like that they did manage to punish FMB for a while. With the first game, was like, yes, this is what I said should happen. This is what Red should do, is FMB should smash Robo, and they should win through top lane, but it seemed like they only wanted to play that way once. And they were not necessarily dedicating the same time into FMB later on in the series, Red were. So it proved that if you don't dedicate time there, Loud are able to get an advantage over you instead, which I thought might not even be the case. So generally speaking, Loud did even better than I thought they were going to do in terms of how they would look. I did predict them to win just because it would be it just seemed like the most Loud thing to do. But they looked like a better team than they did in the paiN series and in the VKS series. So that's good for me. I'm glad that we're seeing active development still with Loud. This split is not long. They have played only 9 games. They've only 3 series. That is half of a regular split normally, right? So we are, I guess, 10 because of the tiebreaker, but we've already seen this team start to bed in a bit. And since they're going to go in 3rd place and represent us, again, we are sending Loud to I guess I can't call it international because Red's not going, but the cross-conference play, we're sending Loud again, and we got used to being disappointed by Loud, I'll be honest. So I'm hoping we're not going to be disappointed this time, because I have hope from what I saw in that series.
And not for nothing, real quick, someone else made this point, but it was, I think, kind of salient here. Every single series that didn't involve Fluxu, it should be said, because Fluxu, I think this is we have 7 teams in the LTA South, and then Fluxu right now. This team is going to take longer than I thought to come good, unfortunately. Every single series went 2-1. So even though we have, we have split into the haves and have-nots, and some games have been blowouts. Some games, I think the general quality of League of Legends has not been that high, but the level of the teams, I think, is closer than we might initially, or I'll speak for myself. I think the level of teams is closer than I think right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it's like Fluxu W7M in 8th, and then like a jump, and then VKS, and then a jump, and then the rest. And then all the rest of the teams in like a big, nice, happy, fun thing. Maybe Furia is like hanging on to the bottom of that 6 stack, but they're in it. They're in the 6 stack, and the rest of them are all just having a good time up there. So yeah, I like that we do have even more parity than we had before. The CB was already going that way, and this change seems to have accelerated that. And yeah, all 2-1s. No one is smashing anybody except in that one exception for Fluxu. So Rose, would you guys still include Furia in that 6? Because I've been very generous with them, and they did end up 0-2ing out of the bracket, as it were. They got a game in either one, but Rose, do you feel the same way that I do about Furia? Because I know that I may be overselling at times. We've all seen the tier list.
I was pleasantly surprised by how well Furia played. I remember, also bear in mind that a lot of times when I'm watching these games, I'm also producing it, so I can't exactly put 100% of my focus on seeing what the players are doing, and I rely on highlights a lot more than just watching the games. Furia always stuck me as the team that sort of coasted by. They weren't amazing, they weren't terrible. I know they had, I think, a split or 2 ago, they were people were calling them the super team, right? Gathering all the teams together, gathering all the players together, and then putting a team together that could like smash apart everyone else. I'm not surprised they dropped down in the lower bracket. I am pleasantly surprised how well they played in the games that they did win. they correctly got an advantage and then pushed that advantage all the way through. If I look back to the game this last series against paiN, that's what they did in game 1. They got a massive lead and then finished off the game 1. In game 2 and 3, they didn't have that
low key. Like that was they kind of dumpstered game 1.
They did, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And as I'm saying, like in game 2,
going into a meltdown on Twitter. They're like, oh, like people. There were people literally like big like paiN fan accounts saying we are going to lose to FURIA. We are going to be eliminated by FURIA, and they were just capitulating. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was more like, yeah, exactly. Where like FURIA came in so hot. Frankly, I think just because paiN did talk a lot of smack, saying like, yeah, of course we're gonna win, right? Like we have Titan, he's gonna carry us all the way. And then game 1 happened, and everyone was like, hello, what? Where's the paiN that like we needed? Like I think I heard RMC crying from across the world because paiN got like absolutely dumpstered on game 1. But then game 2 and then game 3 came along and FURIA couldn't find that same advantage. And paiN, I will give this as a credit to paiN. paiN knows how to play League of Legends even if they're not ahead. I think that's the big difference between FURIA and paiN, is that paiN, even behind, can find that window of opportunity to push the game to their favor, and FURIA could not.
Yeah. FURIA continue to demonstrate the ability to get the most beautiful wins of any team in the region, and it's not even really close anymore. Leviathan have done some good work in that regard, but FURIA wins are just sublime, man. Like the way that they were transitioning from objective to macro play, the timers were just so well managed by them, where it felt like paiN just had nothing to do, nowhere to go, no advantage to find, no opportunity, and I just don't see any other team playing that well with a lead in the entire region other than FURIA. But they just, if they fall behind, they're not able to break. They don't have the same special sauce that Loud does, that paiN does, you know, that Isras Estral do, where they can actually find a way out of a losing situation. They just don't have it yet, and I don't know if it's a lack of a certain flavor of veterancy on the team, because they have players like Jojo and Gigo, so it's not that they don't have anyone who's been around the houses a couple times, but it just seems like they don't know how to find that way out, and especially in this paiN series, even more so than their other series against Isras Estral, they almost shrank back into themselves, and they became so cautious of making any mistake that they just didn't engage in the game at all once they were behind, and they just kind of allowed themselves to be gradually defeated with very little fight put up by them, which was not ideal. Like at some point, you've just got to send it and try and get the win. You've got IU, you've got Jojo, like you've got like Gigo is still having a crazy series. You've got Tatu. Like these are players that I think have the skill to find a surprise win if they take the opportunity, but evidently no one is calling for it. No one is saying, let's go and do this crazy thing right now, or at least no one's listening. So it's worrying for FURIA at the same time as it's like incredibly encouraging. So it makes it quite a bittersweet end for them. It's tough to lose to the championships in playoffs or in the bracket, to lose to the current defending champions twice in a row. First it was Loud, now it's paiN. They do not seem to have the luckiest brackets, and bearing in mind they got knocked down by Isras Estral, who inevitably qualified out first. So
yeah, I was going to say, they took a game off, the two teams that in a certain universe are the two best teams in Brazil, right? And they kind of slammed them, I think. Yeah, one person I do want to highlight from FURIA's wins and losses, though, is Tatu. I thought he had a really strong series. He was kind of all over the place on Wukong in game 3. Did he play the Zyra? I'm trying to scrub through the highlights.
He did play the Zyra. He's not gotten a win on the Zyra yet, but he's.
I was actually going to comment on it, on the Zyra becoming like a jungle pick, because I hate it. I don't know why Zyra is played in the jungle. I've been seeing it picked up, and every time I see Zyra get picked up, I'm like, Tatu just doesn't. Tatu specifically did not look comfortable on it as compared to his Jin Zhao and then his Wukong. But I feel like Zyra, for certain junglers, Zyra is just not the pick. She's not going to be the one engaging fights like Xin Zhao will, and Maokai and Ivern and Wukong and all those sort of engaged type of junglers. It's a weird place for Zyra to be in. Like, she doesn't fit in any any comp. And yes, this is a consequence of Fearless, which we'll get into later. But I did not like Tatu Zyra in the slightest.
Yeah, it did not light the fire under me, that's for sure. And when we'll get more games next split to see a little bit more variety potentially, I think that the jungle pool is quite varied right now. There's definite power picks, things like Maokai and Xin Zhao and Wukong, but there's room for Zyra, and even Brand jungle came out from karaoke in this.
I forgot about that.
In was it the Loud series? Maybe he pulled it out, but like
I think it was in the Loud VO1.
Yeah, like there's Brand is possible. Karaoke has played Ivern twice. You know, Scary's played Ivern. Like there's a lot of opportunity there, and plenty of good champions that do seem to mesh well with Tatu. But it seems like there is a distinct difference between champions that fit into his style and champions that don't. And Tatu and the Zyra maybe just isn't comfortable for him yet. So, you know, it's a bit of a young player thing in the same way that we can see Tinones have these like extra and Robo have these super deep pools that they can pull out time and again. Tatu is a rookie. We need time to maybe build up to that stage.
Of course, yeah.
So we shall see. But yeah, very encouraging. I'm definitely very happy with what I saw from Tatu as a rookie, and this Furia roster still that I can't give up hope on them yet. Certainly not after we do see them take these games off anyone who steps up to their door. But alas, they did fall paiN with the kind of mini reverse sweep, getting the 2-1, and then advancing to play Loud, as it should always have been. And this one was, if I recall, just a
yeah.
It was just a nightmare.
I understand you.
Like, it was just a nightmare game.
Crazy,
like
it was such a bad. I think this game was such an indictment on Loud that like it almost feels like we've got like sort of this like I don't even know if it's like a, because I haven't really kind of thought this take through, but like, you know, we always used to say about Loud, like, oh, you know, they can kind of, you know, they can lose an early game, or they can, you know, be down an early game, but their macro's so good, their experience is so good, they're never going to let the lead grow beyond like kind of 2,000-3,000, and they'll just find that perfect team fight. Loud smothered this early game. This game was over. In 10 minutes. The fact that it went, I'm scrubbing through the highlights again to see, like
they were like 5-0 by 8 minutes or something. They just like smashed.
Titan was like 0-5, and they let him get full build and just completely negate this. This game went 50. What?
Oh, dude, I'm still scrolling. Minutes. When did this game end?
47. It went 47 minutes. No,
47.
I'm sorry, dude. That's unacceptable. Also, fun tidbit. I think Jax Robo on Jax has never lost to paiN. That's a tidbit I found.
That's good, actually. Yeah, that's...
Right. Write that down in the script.
But it's like you got this insane draft. Like it wasn't quite the Thanos draft, but like you got Robo on Jax, you got the Skarner, right?
They
you got
Tinones on Skarner on the tiebreaker.
Tinones on Mel, like specifically. Let's just say that.
And you put Root on the Ezreal, who he is so good on. Like
yeah.
The fact that this game you got, and Root of all people got this just mondo lead, right? Ezreal. You can win and you don't have to smash lane. That is the beauty of that champion. He smashed lane, and this game took so long to close out. That for me is the worrying thing about Loud. Like that is my takeaway from the series.
Yeah, like they outclassed paiN in this game, but they still couldn't just like be normal about it. They refused to be normal about it. Like the fact that we this is a fearless bracket, and we waited to the best of ones to then still let Skarner through as paiN on red side is bonkers to me. Wiz looked really good on it. The champion is broken, so we just kind of gave that way for no reason whatsoever to then pick Brand as the answer, which didn't really do that much of anything so specifically. Like, there's a reason why no one else is doing much of Brand right now, so I don't know what the thought there was. Giving Root Ezreal is interesting because Root used to be like the Aphelios, Zeri kind of hyper carry win condition guy, but I don't know what happened over the off season, but now he's come back and his Ezreal is like, you're watching Hankel VODs or something, but like his Ezreal is crazy. His Ezreal is so good now. And Titan's meant to be the Ezreal guy in the region, so like, I don't know what happened, but he is looking so good on this pick, and it is a very different champion in terms of when it spikes and how it plays, that is just even more kind of fuel onto the fire of Root as just being this kind of huge figure now. Yeah.
I have a question to pose to both of you.
Yeah.
With how dominant Loud played in the first 10 minutes, you know, getting that massive gold lead.
Yeah.
Is it a problem with Loud not being able to capitalize on their advantage, or is it paiN's resilience that made the game last that long? Because this is going to be an important question as we move into cross-conference play, and these teams look to play LTA North's teams. Do the North teams know how to punish Loud not taking their advantage, or was that just a fluke that paiN just couldn't properly, or paiN did properly fight against Loud's advantage? And will NA do the same thing? NA North.
I am pretty confidently of the opinion that this game should have ended at like 35 minutes. Like, I don't think this should have been a 25-minute stomp, because with Nico Ash, with Brand, with Yone, you can hold, with the comp that paiN have, you can hold side waves, you can clear waves, you can force like a Baron to be required to kind of break your base, really. They you know, I think that paiN played well from behind at a certain point, and the composition for Loud, while Winston was very good in lane at getting catches and Wiz has the Skarner, like, ultimately, Tinons took a while to start getting into the game as Mel, and like, this isn't like a big playmaking champion, like, it's just kind of a very high-value champion. So I think there's reasons why it took longer to win than your average, you know, like, really early lead would take, that I think are not necessarily Loud's fault. But when they got to the base gates at 34 minutes or 35 minutes, whatever it was, they did start trolling. Right, they did start straight trolling, and then the game took 12 more minutes to end. So like, there was some flubs by Loud that made this take too long. Up until that point, I think there should have been a pretty reasonable 35-minute win where they did really well early and then just kind of, in a controlled fashion, won the game afterwards. So it was almost on the cusp of being a very actually high-quality win by Loud and a decent attempt defense by paiN that just couldn't get the job done when you're that far behind. So I honestly think it's more Loud absolutely binning it for the latter quarter of this game and refusing to win for so long that I would blame more than paiN for this.
Yeah, I'm watching literally right now as you said the word binning it. Root arcade shift forward and try to execute Titan.
And just
didn't work. He gets punished immediately. Carioca drops an EW on him, and the rest of the team falls apart. Yeah, and it like. Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, like I agree with you. I have nothing really to add. To think, yeah, you were right to point out paiN's composition, and like, yeah, I think up until that 35-minute mark, it was fine, but then there were just a couple of couple of oopsies.
And to Root's credit, doing that twice in the lane is why he was so far ahead. This was like the spirit of Croc manifesting in Root. Right there, when those plays, they worked out, because like, when the Ezreal play like that works out, it's so good. But these are all skill shot based. This is not a high guarantee of success doing this. Flash EQ, like, you've got to hit that, and he did hit it twice in this game, and so he then tried to do it again, and he just biffed it, and it really wasted everyone's time for 12 minutes. So, you know, I don't respect it necessarily. I understand it from Root, and like, he was definitely feeling himself today, and he was playing really well up to that point. So I get it. But yeah, I think this is just kind of a bit of a Loud moment, and I don't think Root would do that in a higher stakes game, because ultimately this is a best of one for a one position seeding. So I kind of think Root has the experience to not whip that out at an unnecessary time. So we'll blame Loud for that one. But blame them though we are, they still won, so joke's on us. Which leaves us with Isurus, then Leviathan, then Loud, then paiN. So we still have our classic Brazilian reps, we have our LLA sitting at the top, and they will step forward into cross-conference play. Now, before we take a look at the LTA playoffs, which we are going to look at, we're going to look at that bracket in its entirety as we now have it. We're going to do our honors and our reports for this week.
Quick one before we dive into that, or we can do this after. I think we should talk about Red making a roster change already.
Oh yes, that's actually big news. We should talk about that.
Yeah. They have decided that for next split they're going to use this 2 months off to get the one, the only, the solo queue legend. He has been a figure in the Brazilian community that people have been clamoring for a long time. I think more than like Ithuza levels of hype, and that was not ideal. But he was also chucked into a dumpster fire, to be fair, to Ithuza. Yeah. But
is it like IU level? Are we talking IU level hype right now?
I think I feel like it's tough to say. Maybe at its peak, probably IU level, because like
It hasn't
Yeah,
reached the European ladder yet, but it's
no,
Brazil's
exactly.
pretty big,
But like,
yeah.
it's one of these. Yeah, I mean, he reached, I think, number one challenger when he was like 14. He's 21 now, just FYI. But he was one of these, these prodigies, and he won Academy on Flamengo Academy with Flare, Bounty, Asta, and Bull.
Let's go.
Some real CBLOL Mad Libs right there, some deep cuts. He won Academy in 2021 and hasn't played competitively since. There were some questions about kind of his mentality, some questions about, his work ethic, how badly did he want to actually be a pro as opposed to just a really good player. But the fact that he hasn't seen any action since 2021, that is why they're making this, that's what they claim, right? They're making this roster decision right now, and they are basically swinging from one end to the other as far as Grevthar is the thinking, right? Is Grevthar is someone who maybe to a fault is, he gives up so much for his team, right? And even, on his good games, he's good, but when the team loses, he looks so bad. Like, I think that was laid the most bare in that game 3 against Loud, where I remember casting it with Rudude, right? And he was like, yeah, like, Red have actually a lead in all 4 lanes, except for the mid lane where Tin owns is up a full item on Grevthar. He is down 3,000 gold and almost getting Flame Horizoned, right? Yeah. Just like there's playing for your team, but there's a way that you could do it that is more kind of manageable. And I think what'll be interesting here is because Jean Mago, his name, he's gone by Mago now, Mago. But Jean Mago, I guess, was his full like IGN back in the day. But he is someone who plays a very give me the resources and let me carry style of League of Legends. So it is a complete tone shift. And now raises a very interesting question because, and again, like that we lose all the tiebreakers stat for Red, it's very damning. But you also have to be good enough to get to all those situations where you are playing those pivotal game 3s and game 5s and whatnot. So, like you have to be good enough to get there, but Red have been the also-rans for a long time. And it's not like you don't have those carries, right? That I think is going to be the really interesting question, right? Not one is, can Jean Mago get to that, get to a professional player level, right? So it's one thing to be a solo queue god, it's another to be a really good professional player. And it's another thing to come into this team where you have 2, maybe 3 other carries. You have FNB, you have Brunsey, you have Aegis if the meta shifts a certain way, right? Do you need Jean Mago to be that? Or would you actually just be fine kind of, rounding off the edges of Grevthar and sticking through it? Now, I understand if you're a Red fan, you say, well, clearly, like, unless Red's, coaching staff is just, guilty of dereliction of duty, then surely you have been trying to do that. Surely you have been trying to get Grevthar to be a more balanced player. And that, you would think hasn't worked. So yeah, Grevthar will be down in Red Academy, it seems like, once the Circuito, the 2nd division, kicks off, and he's looking for kind of a ticket back up. I do think he will get another shot with the team, if not this year, then next year. He is a 2-time champion, right? But that was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, regular listeners, people in the Discord will have heard me make the argument already that I don't think Aegis needs Grevthar to be good. I think there is quite a happy dynamic between the two of them. Obviously, just personal synergy and the fact that Grevthar is more willing to sack his lane than maybe any other mid laner in a tier 1 region. But Mago's not going to be that guy. And we were talking about maybe we slap someone like Fu in there. And that's kind of the same dynamic we would be seeing. We'd be seeing a mid laner who is skilled and can use resources to carry and win games and be a win condition player. That's the kind of player that Mago is. And that's the kind of player that Red are now going to go with. So we are not saving Fu from the Fluxu W7M kind of hole. But in terms of Red, they're still opting for that kind of strategy in terms of the stylistic replacement they're going for. So this is going to be very interesting, and it's going to prove how important Grevthar really was to this combination, because we didn't love Red with Avenger. However, that was not this kind of Red. That whole lineup was Bol was also there, and that tells you all you maybe need to know. But now, as 404 said, we've got FMB, we've got Brunsey. This could be a chance to make a now we're just kind of smashing you everywhere kind of team, like if Red are able to put this together. So excited for that. Still worried about putting a lot of pressure on a young player on a team that does not do well under pressure, statistically speaking. But you've got to throw caution to the winds at some point, and I like that Red have taken a swing here. It does feel bad for Grevthar. The thing about Grevthar is, where do you put a player like Grevthar? Like, he seems to fit so naturally well into this Red dynamic. where does he make sense anywhere else in tier 1 at least? I don't know. RMC like kind of hates our mid lane pool right now as a general rule, so maybe this is a time where there's more chance there, but just like I don't know who's calling for a Grevthar. So I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, real. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see where he lands, right? How long he spends in tier 2, especially, when you do have guys down there, right? You have, you have House, you have Ifuza somewhere, right? You have these guys who, in theory could be just as good, right? Maybe Grevthar's time is just over in tier 1. I personally would be surprised if that's the case, because again, I do, maybe it's because I have a soft spot for him because he is widely regarded as the nicest man in CBLOL, and it's funny because some people have kind of made this point of this very kind of sacrificial style that he plays is almost like an extension of his personality. That he is someone who is just very like, I'll do what I need for the group, right? He's a very kind of amenable, really easy to get along. He has no enemies in CBLOL, right? But like, there is, kind of this downside of like, I'm not saying this is him, right? But I'm saying as someone who has kind of this personality as well, is that I can be a bit of a doormat sometimes, and I will just let people kind of, I'm a peacemaker. I don't like conflict, so I will sometimes do that at the expense of my own, to use League of Legends metaphor, my own CS, right? And me getting what I need in life because I don't like conflict, and so if that conflict can be solved by me just sacking what I need, great.
Yeah. I'm trying to... So the only way that I think maybe Grevthar still has a place in tier 1 after this is either he replaces Tuts on FURIA, which is already a team with a lot of carry potential, again, like Red, out of top jungle and bot, but that kind of relies on Tuts being deemed unworthy and continuing to invest in, which I don't think is a decision that FURIA should make now. He's not had the best split, but he's not had a nightmare split, I don't think, anyway. Like, he's not had a great time. Fine. Yeah, like, I mean, there's we got a lot of new exciting mid laners here, and East Tuts does have struggled a bit against them, but so like, either you replace Tuts and FURIA, or Fu replaces Tuts and FURIA, and Grevthar replaces Fu and Fluxu. Now, going from Red to Fluxu W7M is a bit of a bummer, and honestly, if I was Grevthar, I might just be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just go and do something productive down in tier 2 or 3 instead of just like sitting on this Fluxu W7M roster for no reason whatsoever. I don't know. I doubt there's even a significant bag to be gotten doing that at this point in Fluxu W7M's career. So it feels like we might not see Grevthar again for a while, which is a bummer. But Mago sounds cool. So positive, I guess.
We'll see. They got 2 months off, so
yeah. I'd love for them to come back and have them all integrated. That would be sick.
Yeah, and that is one thing. Just last thing on Jean Mago. I forget where I kind of heard who exactly said it, but like in kind of in scrims where I think this is just for tier 2 because he is with the Red Academy roster right now, right, as of before this change, and pretty much everyone in tier 2 said like the most suffocating laner I've ever had to play against was Jean Mago. That he is that kind of player that will just dumpster you in lane. Again, complete stylistic shift, but it comes kind of, backed up that even though this dude hasn't played competitively in like a structured competitive environment for 3 months, right, in these scrims, other people are like, no, this dude, like in lane, this dude is just so tilting to play against. He's impossible. So do it that way you will. Anyway.
Yeah. Would love to maybe see Jean Mago come in and have like the Cody matchup, because that's what Cody was doing to everyone else in our region. So that would be cool to see him maybe be able to stand up to these new LLA mid laners who are kind of taking us to task right now. Right. So let's do honors and reports before we look at playoffs. I will go first, and I am going to report. We're going to do reports first. We're going to end on a positive this time around. I'm going to report the paiN coaching staff for not banning Skarner against Loud. Because I think there is just zero reason to ever do that at any point, unless it's a best of 5 in Fearless and you have no other option to do, and you think their jungler is bad at the champion and have scrim data that proves this is the case, which none of these things are the case, I think. So I just don't get it. Seems unnecessary to give away at that point. Maybe they're just like, let's test out our brand counter, but I don't think that's what scrims are for, buddy. So whoopsie doodle, don't love that. That's my report. Rose, who would you like to report for this week of LTA South?
I kind of did beat it into like a dead horse earlier, but like whoever invented Zyra jungle, I just needed them to be reported.
Oh,
because I don't. This is a
team.
conceptual shift to like how the jungle meta has played out over the last few splits, and moving on forward. It just doesn't agree with me. I'm looking up the win rate right now just to see Zyra in the region really quickly, because like this could just be just one game that's influencing this report that I'm doing right now.
I know it's
but every time I see it,
it's probably like 50-50.
It like, yeah, like every time I see it, it has a 40% win rate. It's been picked 5 times, 2 wins, 3 losses. But I don't see where it fits. Yeah, I want to report the Riot team for this, for putting Zyra in the jungle, like making this at all a viable pick.
Yeah, getting a bit too kooky with it when we decided Zyra should be a jungler, guys. And
I understand this is part of the fearless draft coming in, where like you're not on the comfortable jungle choices anymore. Some things have been banned out, saying like, you know, letting the Skarner through in that last game, where, you know, maybe you're being pushed into that Zyra pick, but part of that is like IU. When I saw IU in that last game on Zyra, I don't think IU was in the proper mentality for Zyra. Tatu, my bad. Tatu was in the proper sort of headspace, and I don't know if the team comp worked with him or not, but he didn't look comfortable on it. And I think with just substituting a different jungle pick there, Furia could have taken that 2-0.
Okay, so Rose is reporting the balance team for turning Zyra into a jungler. 4i4, who would you like to report?
I hate to do this because this is my boy, and this is one of my favorite champions. But I'm going to report Frosty on Rakan in game 2 against Loud.
I love Frosty.
That is his pocket pick. That is a champion he's been so good on for so long. I thought that was like a bit of a Joker moment, like a bit of a trump card moment. And that in game 2, in, you know, just avoid Loud completely. But I'll give some credit to Loud, because they were just kind of ahead in such a way and played the map in such a way that it didn't allow Frosty to find, you know, these Rakan angles that you have to find into a fight. Like I thought the best Rakan in that game was Tinon's on Silas when he stole Frosty's ult. Unfortunately, but yeah, to have a big stinker on your kind of pocket pick champion when and it hurts, because I mean, again, like, you know, you could have taken that for Winsome, and you could have, you know, just banned that out. Like we see, you know, sometimes teams banning it out just to be like, no one gets to play this, right? Like, we're just gonna lock this in for Fearless for the whole series. But that's my report. Unfortunately, Frosty, look, he has that champion. Grevthar had a horrific game 3, but I don't think he is like the reason you lost, and you had a big opportunity in game 2 with some comfortable picks, right? Aegis on Maokai, who, like, look, I know that's not like his style of jungler where he can like really shine, but man, like in 2024 and 2025, you have to be trying not to be good on Maokai, man. Like, that champion makes your life so easy. Yeah, so that's my report.
Turned into a different kind of Joker moment for 4i4, that one. Unfortunate. Right, honors. I'm going to snake draft this one. So I'm going to come right back to 4i4 and force a snap decision on who gets honor.
You know what? I'm gonna honor FURIA. I think they were in a position to win every game, and against paiN, that is not easy to do. paiN, that again should have. I think still, I've been really disappointed by paiN, and I'm not even, you know, RMC. I'd love to hear how kind of his thoughts on everything after this week of games. But no, but I thought FURIA, like, look, in game 1 they played a really clean game. Like, their macro is still really good. Their setups are really good. It's clear that ThinkCard has kind of taken the reins of what was going on beforehand, and just, you know, and has continued that, right? Which that's another kind of exciting subplot, is ThinkCard just, you know, being sick and coming down and you know, continuing the great legacy of North American coaches in Brazil after Abashal. And yeah, I think I want to give them credit, because they, again, I think it'll just Tuts had a bit of a stinker in game 3, just kind of in these later game team fights on the he wasn't kind of, you know, like Titan. I don't think did he run cleanse as well? But it shouldn't even matter if he was running cleanse on Jinx in game 3, because again, if you are Azir, right, you can't cleanse a knockup, right? So Flash is the only ability. Yeah, exactly. So like if you get him right, I feel like the ultimates were coming out a little bit too late, right? As FURIA, they built up okay leads kind of in games 2 and 3, or they put themselves in decent positions, but I think Tuts didn't take the game by the scruff of the neck in game 3 like he should. And again, he's been that guy before. He has that in him. He is a CBLOL champion. I think Tuts is he's coming back down to earth a little bit after a monstrous end to last split. But I want to honor the FURIA coaching staff and FURIA for a having a split that the record books won't remember, but the streets will remember. That it was a low-key, really good split that's going to, unfortunately, come home with no trophies, right? You 2-0'd Fluxo W7M, as you should, right? Because I think a bad team would let Fluxo W7M take a game off them. But they took a game off of Surcestra, they took a game off paiN, and they put themselves in good positions in almost every single one of those games. So I think the ceiling's still pretty high for this team, and crucially, the floor is really, really high for this team. You can't come into a game against FURIA, mess it around, and expect to get something from them. They are a good team.
Yeah, almost an honorable mention as they bow out, you know, to make sure that, as you say, the streets do not forget what they showed us in those wins. Rose, who is your honor?
I'm going to quote you, Trajan, and I'm going to give the honor to Root from Loud. Because even in, I'm going to start off with the bad thing. Even in the first game loss against Red, Root played insane. Even with the disadvantages that they had, they were down objectives. Robo wasn't doing the best on the Cho'Gath. You know, Tinones couldn't find those, those rockets everywhere. Root was this juggernaut of security that Loud could play around because it's just route. It's just root. Root or route, whatever your pronunciation is. I'm going to get it wrong all the time. But Root just allows Loud to play around the objectives, play around, like have that security of a team fight. And then moving forward into games 2 and 3, it's just watching like a breath of fresh air. It's watching a very good AD carry play around his team, isolate targets that he needs, pump out the damage that he needs, trusting in his teammates to keep him alive, to keep those threats off of him, and allow him to do his job. I think moving into the cross-conference play, moving forward, teams are going to have to specifically look out for Loud's Root. And if the man is allowed any sort of free time to level out auto attacks, to level out those Ezreal ults, it's going to be a nightmare for anyone involved.
Yeah.
Trajan, remind me, you go ahead, but remind me to ask an interesting question about Root when we talk about cross-conference.
Sure. We will certainly get to that. A good honor, for sure. I'm glad that you mentioned the point about knowing and trusting his team to help him and keep him alive as well, because my honor is going to go to all paiN players not called Titan for coming to the most heroic Jinx defense I've ever seen to keep Titan alive in that FURIA game where they had the catch on him. He was up in the mid lane with no one on his screen, no vision around his lane, and he got caught, but he manages to barely scrabble his way over to get the karaoke shields and the Curry lockets, and all this team rotates in, and it turns into a big gold influx for him, and paiN turns the game around from there, and that one moment just felt like where the entire series pivoted after a nightmarish game 1 for paiN. So congrats to paiN Gaming, and you get my honor, and Titan should certainly be honoring them in that post-game lobby for bailing him out and assuring that that comeback was possible. So
yeah, Titan's drinks on Titan at the next cookout.
Yeah, and then some. My word, because that was some good get down, Mr. President action from paiN Gaming.
Yeah, look, they know their win condition, and that's the positive spin on that. Absolutely. They really know their win condition.
They certainly do. Okay, right. Let's talk a little bit about playoffs. Let's talk a little bit about the LTA Split 1 playoffs, everybody. We have our matchups officially lined up here. Now, the first, if we can talk about them roughly in order, and we can give some predictions for them as well. We won't linger too long, but when I was thinking about how these playoffs could shake out, when we didn't even know who was going to be like upper and lower bracket, I was sitting there going, I really hope paiN doesn't get 100 Thieves. Because the mid jungle is the problem for paiN, and 100 Thieves is just a mid jungle with 3 other guys. and
guess who they're playing?
That's what we've ended up with, everybody. So I'm a little miffed for paiN, who already had a bit of a rough ride getting in here. And if they just banned Skarner, they probably wouldn't be there, is my point. So I'm mad about it.
It's so funny because like the way that this bracket shook out, right, with the upsets in both regions, you almost like coming into right? Having seen no games, right? And you knew, like, if you're an LTA North enjoyer last split, you knew that the mid jungle was a strong point of this team. But of 100 Thieves, I'm saying. But like, if you would have picked, okay, who's our strongest team against their weakest team? It probably would have been paiN versus 100 Thieves.
That's what we would have predicted would be 100
right?
Thieves,
Especially coming off Worlds last year,
and paiN coming out in first.
These were two teams going in diametrically opposite directions.
Yeah, we could not avoid it. Fate was too strong here, and we tried. Both regions tried their hardest to avoid it, but then paiN did Mascarner. So whoops, unfortunate.
As it is written.
Yeah, I guess. Do you guys think that the rest of paiN, or one, do you disagree that I think mid jungle is a very bad matchup for paiN here, or do you think that the rest of the map is enough to still give paiN a good chance against 100 Thieves? Because I'm particularly worried about this. Plus the fact that 100 Thieves came out in first, like, props to them. They actually just beat everybody straight up.
No, they're just good. They are just good.
Like like before this split, I see Weiser versus Sniper, and I go, hell yeah, love that. That sounds good for us, you know? And we put Titan and Curry against, I don't know, anybody, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So, do you guys think this is still playable for paiN? Do you think the jungle is actually a problem, or am I kind of catastrophizing a bit here?
Dude, I think...
Specifically against 100 Thieves?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so rough because this is BO3 single elim, right? This is really rough. And what worries me, honestly, let's talk about that top matchup. And the first thing that came to mind was, I do think Weiser is, more solid than Sniper, but Sniper seems like the kind of player who, like, when he's playing with kind of nothing to lose, right? He can really kind of pop off. But I guess you could say, well, this is where you have everything to lose, right?
Yeah.
You can't lose to Brazil.
Single limb. Yeah, so, against Brazil.
Yeah,
against the 4th seed of Brazil. Yikes. Everything to lose, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know, to go back to your original question, like, is the rest of the map good enough? I think with last year's 100 Thieves, I think the bottom lane could be absolutely exploited. It seems like FBI has just brought, and people talk about, like, off the riff. You've heard, like, from people on 100 Thieves and people on LTA North talk about, like, what FBI has done as far as stabilizing this 100 Thieves roster and the experience that he brings and how good he is for kind of the off the field vibes. So I don't know, man. I think, unfortunately, this might be doomed for paiN. I think they can take a game, but 100 Thieves right now are playing really, really well. Again, this is probably the most pressure they've had on them, because even at Worlds, right, like, they kind of collapsed a little bit when it was like, oh, you just got to beat the LTA team, right? When you're the favorites, they haven't performed as well. Again, that's small sample size. That could very easily, correlation, causation, that whole thing. And also that was in 2024 with a bit of a different roster. So, I don't know how much that actually counts. And paiN Gaming right now, oh man, they're in a world of hurt. I don't know. I don't feel good about it.
I hate to agree with you 4x4 and, like, beat paiN into the ground, but, like, I'm not agreeing with you. But the fact that I have to agree that, like, paiN into 100 Thieves is gonna be, like, I want to say, like, in my heart, I want to say 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if 100 Thieves just takes it 2-0. I don't think Dinkato and Karaoke can stand up against the might that is 100 Thieves. I think maybe Titan will eventually get to that point, but in my heart of hearts, I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, I don't feel confident about this one. It's tough. RMC's not here, but we can still be a paiN doomer in his absence.
Who's that yelling in the background? Is that you, RMC? Hello?
He's manifesting right now.
Yep.
Okay. LEV-FLY. This is the weirdest matchup maybe out of all of them. And the matchup that literally nobody ever thought we would be getting at the start of this split. So LEV-FLY coming out in second, Fly out in third after defeating Dignitas, I believe it was, in their lower bracket.
Yeah, great job on beating Dignitas, guys.
Great job, guys. Well done.
Really
didn't lose.
I wish we got a lower, like a bottom 4, like a toilet bowl sort of thing. Yeah. Right? We got the bottom
next season.
LTA North versus bottom 4 of LTA South. That I think we would legitimately do very well. Because again, we would get Red and FURIA and Cade against with the
not even talking about Fluxo, damn.
With the greatest of respect. Yeah, Fluxo, I don't know what the fuck.
They can play Lion and no one will care.
They can play Lion and Dig and Disguise with the greatest respect in the world to Disguised, my GOAT, trying to save North American League of Legends. with his boundless streamer money.
Certainly not with gamer wins. That's not what he's saving.
Oh my goodness! I think that bottom 4 toilet bowl would go so hard. That is like the Simpsons meme, right? Like standing around watching the monkeys go at it on the cruise ship, right?
Yeah. You could play it in the face-off arena in the North Arena while everyone else
absolutely.
I feel confident in Leviathan. Like, I think they can handedly beat FlyQuest.
I feel okay about not against Fly.
Okay,
I think if you
so like I was about to say,
is it copium? Is it like, you know?
I feel really
is
sad.
Is it just the CBLOL?
I'm going in with my low-rated team paiN against LTA's higher one that shouldn't be there, and going, I don't believe in this, and I can't do the same for my own region. It feels bad, but why do you think Leviathan is going to beat Fly? Is it a vibes-based argument, or what's giving you this impression?
It is a vibe-based argument.
Okay.
But it's also the fact that, like, everyone here wrote off Leviathan when the season started.
We need to stop doing that.
Yeah, we need to stop doing that. Like, you put Leviathan at the bottom, and then they just come out here swinging. Like, not first seed, almost got first seed. But, like, they came out swinging, knocked every single team down in CBLOL. Granted, yes, there were less games to play, which we can get into later. Less games, less scrims, and less, you know, show matches in general. But Leviathan came out swinging. They shut all of us down and saying, like, hey, yeah, this merger was in our favor. Like, you use LLA and CBLOL being put together doesn't mean that, like, LLA is just out of the talking entirely. But, like, we're here representing. Like, they shocked me. I'm pretty sure they shocked every one of our talents, casters, and everyone else in the background as well, that they got this far. And, like, I think that against FlyQuest, they can give a very good showing.
So my one problem with this is the inspired scary matchup does give me something of the fear.
Like, scary is on the rise, but into inspired, dude.
Into inspired, who is probably the best jungler in the West and has been for a year. Feels tricky. I fear.
I fear.
Like the rest of it. And if Leviathan managed to do the upset again, I actually like them into both 100 Thieves and paiN. We already see what they're like into paiN, and that was pretty good. And I actually like them into 100 Thieves because they've got Cody in mid, which is not an exploitable mid. I don't think Scary is would do any worse than Karaoke would necessarily, and I think that like. You're not losing too much in top lane. Like, Zothvi's been incredibly reliable. I don't think Sniper is necessarily going to break that. And you've got Sayo Pro Delta in bot lane that can stand up. Like, mainly it's like that mid matchup is not nearly as much of a problem, I fear. I think for Leviathan against either of the other side. So if they can get there, we could be looking at Leviathan in the finals before you know it. You know? We just have to get past Inspired first, and then doable.
This is
winnable.
Remember when Albus Nox Luna made it out of group stage in Worlds?
Yeah.
And everyone was rooting for them, and they just got their, you know, ass handed to them in like the first knockout. No,
like
I think they actually made it to the first knockout.
Absolutely.
And then they just got wiped. Yeah. Is this sort of the same thing where, like,
getting the weirdest run to World semis ever?
Yeah. And it was just like I fully admit, like, this is some copium right here. Like, I want Lev to just beat FlyQuest. Like, this is the underdog story of the written off region, let's say, that is CBLOL and LLA, compared to what was LCS, right? It's like, I'm rooting for the underdog because it's fun. It's this team came out of nowhere to me because I was not an LLA fan, and now I want to see them succeed. Same thing with IE, and same thing with Loud up against Cloud9, which we will talk about later.
Yeah, it's like, this is it's a greater test for Scary than anyone could have foreseen for this guy coming into this year. And that is going to, I feel like, surely going to be the linchpin here. Like, Sayo dealt with Titan and Curry so well that I actually don't really have fear for him or Pro Delta against FBI and... Who is it? Ayla?
Ayla.
Yeah. I actually don't think that's bad at all for us. Like, a top lane I think is pretty even, honestly. Like, Sniper could go crazy, and if Sniper goes crazy, fair play to him. He's the kind of guy that, as you said, 4-4, he can just do that, and he might pop off. But I think Cody is our best mid laner right now in the region. So I think I kind of am happy with him to be laning against Quad as well. So it's really just a jungle matchup, and if Scary can handle that one, Leviathan has a chance. If they don't, I don't know, man. Also to be clear, Fly's top lane is Whippo, not Sniper, and then I'm talking about Sniper still. But I still I guess Bwipo is the same kind of deal where he could just be mid, or he could pop off and actually like get a massive counter pick
he
or
could
have
go
a really
nuclear.
good lane. Yeah. So top lane is a question mark, and jungle is a big red warning flag. But I want to believe. I haven't been able to muster it. So we'll see what Leviathan can do if they can make us all look like idiots again, and I'll be here for it. We'll all be here for it. So
I hope they do, man. I hope they do.
Now, Isurus Estral TL, I think, is actually the most like even matchup.
Yeah,
I would say.
I think that's our best shot
of a round one. Yeah, I think it is. TL have not looked the hottest coming into this split for whatever reason. And Isurus Estral, like, we've all just got, this is just the most Korean matchup of all of them. We've just got Koreans all over the place here. And Jose Diodo is just such a proven quality that it's really just like Snaker and Ackerman can do what they've been doing all year, which is just refusing to capitulate to really powerful duos, which is what they have against them. Then the rest of the map is absolutely playable.
No, and if you're talking about just on form right now, Umpty is having an absolute clanger of a split so far. And again, if there's someone who you trust to take advantage of that, just experience, if nothing else, right? Being extremely because Umpty almost like is like Wiz North, right? Where you don't get cute and put him on Viego, just leave him on Sejuani Maokai for the love of God. And even there, he isn't performing. Whereas Jose Diodo, right? You trust him to be able to like, to play whatever is necessary. And I really do believe there's something to. I think it has been proven that like this idea of like, no, we're carrying the banner for LATAM, and it is Jose Diodo and Ackerman, right? Like the absolute boys, right? Legends of LATAM.
Yeah.
I think they are going to take this extremely seriously. Look, I think TL are the better team, but they've been coming in a world of hurt right now. And and yeah. Oh, also, not so fun fact that I saw someone on Twitter point out. If you go from the 1 to the 4 seed, or from the 4s to the 1 seed of LTA South, the number of Brazilians, if you go from the lower seed to the highest seed, goes from 3 to 2 to 2 to 0. So basically, the fewer Brazilians you have, the higher your seed. Red, 5 Brazilians, no playoffs.
Yeah.
FURIA, 5 Brazilians and no playoffs.
Maybe it's just the curse. It's like the game 2 curse, you know? Like, no team can take a 2-0 except when you're facing Fluxo. It's like, hey, the more Brazilians you have, you're not making it.
That's a shame.
Some statistician out there right now in charge of LTA South right now is looking at that, what you just said, and be like, we can't have 5 Brazilians on a team. Like, we'll go nowhere without them.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so I like this matchup for us. Yeah, Isurus Estral definitely with a good chance to take this one. This one's kind of a toss up, but
and you're damn right we're saying us, because when it is convenient,
we will be saying
Isurus Estral are us now. So
that's who we are.
Absolutely. We are
don't live in the United States, right?
Absolutely. We are on the team, guys. Okay, and then C9 versus Loud, which has maybe the most meme energy of any of these. A lot of
this matchup is going to go crazy.
A lot of craziness.
I really hope we get like a full 3-game series from this.
Yeah,
this is going to be a hype series.
I'm excited for Root, and Winsome to Winsome play against C9, which is funny because that's
old org. Yep.
That's old org history there. And I just think Root and Winsome, not necessarily, maybe if Winsome gets his act together, maybe, but certainly Root into Sven and
Vulcan.
I think we actually have a good shot there. Root is playing out of his mind right now. Bot lane's certainly the strongest part for Loud. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch this one. I don't really think Loud will win, but I think it's going to be really fun. But
I think they could. I think they could. Like,
could.
You know, if Cloud9 don't show up at their best, and Winsome, I think Winsome has been really hit and miss this year, because he's shown high highs. He's had some plays where you go, oh shit, like there it is, like that's that REL snap engage. There's the the Rakan flank, or even like playing the Braum very well at times, but at times there have been some what in God's green earth are you doing moments.
Yeah, Robo Thanatos is kind of a funny matchup as well.
Oh my good, absolute rock fight up there on the top.
Yeah. So I think that this one, and from what we saw from Loud on Sunday, as I say, market improvements, a lot less chicanery. There was still some chicanery, but the kind of stuff that I don't expect them to do on the main stage. They no longer have to deal with Crocs, no boots, buy an ass at International. So there
Max
is
don't
a
have feet.
chance. There is a chance that as long as Wiz remembers his items, we might see a little bit more consistent jungle performance there, and maybe they can go some way to repairing the reputation that has been frankly taken a beating for Loud over the last couple of years while they were there at International. So high hopes for it as a match, and possibility for Loud to do some chicanery and steal some wins. But yeah, that's for the first round. The only other thing we can do here is I'll get your predictions for what you think the finals matchup is going to be.
Ooh.
If anyone has a strong opinion out of the gate.
All right, let me look over at the bracket here.
100 Thieves, Cloud9. That's what finals is going to be again.
I could see that. Did 100 Thieves beat Fly in the LTA North playoffs, or did they beat TL? Who did they knock out?
I'll look it up.
I think it was Fly.
Yeah. I think
100 Thieves has never fought FlyQuest yet.
They haven't.
Yeah, no, it was.
They fought Dignitas, Team Liquid, and then Cloud9.
Liquid.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fly lost to C9.
They lost to C9.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
And then they beat Dignitas to get to the cross conference.
Yeah. All right. Sure. Yeah, I think 100 Thieves is kind of a good shout with that side of the bracket. Maybe Fly, but Fly feels like the cop-out answer, but it might just be the right answer, you know what I mean?
I wholeheartly agree with what you just said there. I'm having a hard time moving away from Fly.
Maybe Fly Isserus Estral, and we get just like Isserus blows past TL, and then because if they can beat TL, I think they can beat C9 or Loud easier than that. I think TL is a harder matchup for them than either of those two others. So,
no, I think that's kind of where I find myself as well. Is probably FlyQuest IE, and sort of a honorable mention. Second most likely from both of those would be 100 Thieves Loud. I think that would be really spicy.
Sure.
That'd be hype.
Yeah,
that is what my heart wants.
Yeah,
is 100
that
Thieves
would be
versus...
a cool pair of fan bases to make it. That would be a cool pair of teams to arrive.
Exactly.
And then the actual based answer is Leviathan Isserus Estral is the real final.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh,
let's get some attention.
Run it back,
no one
everybody.
wins. Yeah, the North-South rivalry. No, it's just LLA.
LLA wins, and like because that game, the Leviathan Isserus Estral best of one, was such a close game. Was so good.
It was crazy.
And I want a best of 5. I want them to best of 5. So that's why I really want it. So I want to see them best of 5 before having to wait until potentially next playoffs for that, which is too far away. Yeah. So we'll live and hope for that. But yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Round 1. This starts next week for everybody. So we will get to find out how this pans out. Now let's talk some community questions quickly before we wrap up. We have we're going to limit it to 3 every episode. We now have noticeably more than 3 to go. So thank you everyone for submitting,
which is a wonderful problem to have. Thank you. I did not think we have this problem.
It is a big problem to have. So we will try to address questions from different people where possible. And if your question was not addressed and you would still like it to be addressed, feel free to add it to next weekend's questions thread and say that you're adding it again and you'd really love us to answer it. If you really want us to answer it, we will, but you know, we have to consider time. But yeah, we will get to it later on if it's relevant and if you really want us to. So let's take a look at question number 1. This is kind of a pair of bits from Dark Knight. The first one is just a statement that just says he reckons Tuts should have been reported by everyone in this episode. And I think we're doing Tuts a little dirty here. I don't think he had a great series. I think he's not had a great split, but I don't know if we're reporting him necessarily.
It was bad. I think if Tuts plays to his level, Furia wins one of those series. So I guess from that perspective, I think he was like the big kind of missing piece where you've seen Tuts be better than that.
Yeah, I think they could have beaten Isserus for sure with Tuts.
Which is kind of a crazy universe.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And that goes a different way.
I think they're more likely to beat the team that came first than the team that came fourth. You know what I mean? Yep. If they have their mid laner better. But that's just how LTA works, buddies. So isn't it weird that our seed decider matches are best of one that I feel is drafts, but a little contradictory? I mean, this is just because they overcooked the format, I think is like, so we now have to do this cross-conference thing and we have a single tiebreaker for seeding, but only between the first and second and only between the third and fourth. I think it's just like, how do we get this to function where we have both teams, both regions in the same place?
I also think like a BO3 Fearless for seeding, that's overkill. That feels weird.
That would have also
Flip a
been
coin.
not necessary. Yeah, do a 1v1. Do an honorable 1v1 on ARAM.
Yeah, do an LPL 1v1.
Exactly, but for actual, that would be sick. Actually, that would be good.
That'd be kind of sick. Yeah.
This actually plays into one of our later questions, which we can talk to. We can kind of expand on that a little bit more. But I think it's really just this is the only way to get the format to function with the days that they have. So it's not ideal to then go fearless into a best of one. I think if you're gonna go best of one, just make it a blind pick. Who cares? Just throw it all the way out. But yeah, I think that's just the best they could do with the time that they had. Question 2 from Lunar Day. Since the casual audiences are flocking to watch the Fearless gimmick, how about we all make another gimmick for League to use during a split this year? Their suggestion is extremely fearful draft. If it gets banned, it stays banned for the rest of the series. So if something can get played, as long as it never gets banned, the picks do not rule out only bans.
I like it.
It's basically like it's almost like the reverse of what we currently have. I think it would be cool. And I think it does limit the ways that you can deal with champions you can't deal with. And I think that one of the problems people have with Fearless is that it stops people having to come up with solutions to smart pocket picks and power picks. They just they can only be played once, and you don't have to come up with a draft counter. And if bans stay banned forever, one, we'd never see Cassante again, which I know some people would enjoy. But I think it's an even worse solution to that problem of like, oh, we've found this like really good strategy and we're now just gonna ban it. Instead of even having to play against it even once, and now it has no impact on the thing at all. I guess the reverse interpretation of that is it forces everyone to only use interesting strategies because all of the meta just gets banned perma, and more of the meta just gets banned every single game, and we never see any meta champs ever again. So that would be pretty chaotic.
Yeah, it would be chaotic, I think, is the best way to answer it. Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a fun thing for, I don't know, if for some reason we were like, no, we must have, a best of 3 to decide seeding. I don't know if I feel that should, how we decide like very high stakes things, but I don't know. I mean, I just, I think it's one of these things where maybe I'm overthinking it of like, oh, it's going to be like, no, can't work because X, Y, and Z. Would it actually be all that different? Right? Sort of like when we first saw actual Fearless work out, it's like, oh, it's different, but it's not that different. And that's, that's okay, right?
I think Lunar Day just never wants to see Cassante again. I think this is just another plan to get rid of Cassante.
Lunar Day has very strong takes on Fearless, and I respect that.
I love Fearless. Like, I know that's a hot topic, but I love like what Fearless does. Because here's the thing. I'm tired of seeing the same 5v5 champions on the Rift. It's someone devises a draft, picks the 5 best champions that will likely not get banned, and you have a draft. Suddenly, game 2 comes around, you don't have that draft. Teams that adapt to no longer having these champions, being able to think on the fly, being able to do a bit more homework as to who's, a good power pick, who's a counter to this pick, what are you more comfortable on here and there. It forces the teams to adapt a little better. Now, granted, Fearless is not used in Worlds or MSI or in any other region. So, how well...
It will be used at first stand.
It will be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Well, so perfect. But, still other regions aren't doing it. The, Worlds isn't going to do this as far as I know. So I like that, it spices up the meta. It forces players and teams onto non-meta stuff. And it keeps the games spicy and interesting from a viewer perspective. Maybe, it's a little bit more like... it's a little bit more burdensome on the teams who actually have to figure out what they're going to be doing in games 2 and 3. But I generally, from a viewer's perspective, I love Fearless.
Yeah. In terms of making another gimmick for leagues to use, if we assume that Fearless remains, because the middle split and third splits don't have one, I believe.
Yeah. It's as far as I can understand, yeah.
They don't.
It's kind of the middle one is like double round robin, and maybe the third one is a different league format, but the draft format is the same, and I think the game is the same. But someone can confirm that. The gimmicks that I really like the 1v1s, and I think we should incorporate 1v1s everywhere in some form. I like them for side select, and I think we should incorporate them for more important things. But you'd have to adapt the rule set so that it can't end in like as unsatisfactorily potentially. But I like the idea of having like rosters having a kicker on their team, you know, which is just like, this is our 1v1 guy. And we just wheel him out like a pinch hitter, you know, we just wheel him out to do this.
I like it.
I think that would be cool. It gives another just kind of angle on players, space for rosters, another role that they can fill, and you can still probably chop and change between your starting 5 if you want, but like you have your 5 and you have your 1v1er as like an announced thing. So I would probably just slap 1v1s in like everywhere that's possible.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sides like seems to work, at least for now. So the last question is from Superbrand, our wonderful community manager. He says, the split opened and closed, domestically at least, with paiN versus Loud. How much does having both of those teams go to the first North and South bracket mean, since they feel like the 2 teams that really represent what CBLOL was? And as a bonus, also 2 LLE teams and 2 CBLOL teams. Surely that's great. I do agree that's great. I think this is very good to have both of us, to have them all 4 represented. Obviously, the LLA cannot have more than 2 teams, so they got the maximum they possibly could.
1,000.
They certainly are. And in terms of paiN and Loud, I think that it certainly eases the transition for everyone else. We all still understand what paiN and Loud are. They have been definitionally what Brazilian League of Legends is to the rest of the world for 2.5 years.
Yep.
And I think between the 2 of them, they still represent most of what Brazilian League of Legends is, in that it is a dichotomy.
It's like the old guard and the new guard.
It is 2 wolves. It is the 2 wolves inside every Brazilian player. One of them is Loud, and one of them is paiN, and one of them plays like paiN does, and one of them plays like Loud does. And I think that's cool that we have both of them. I like that.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, like you said, it eases the transition, and I think also you're gonna have 2, like, you know, because this first tournament is gonna be in Brazil, in the Riot Games Arena in São Paulo. You're gonna have 2 crazy fan bases. You're gonna have 2 loud fan bases for Give the Pun. So I think that will be very good for vibes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the Loud fans just gonna storm in, you know.
Dude, and they can't stand each other. Those 2 teams, and the players can't stand each other either. Like whenever, when paiN lost game 1 to FURIA, Tinones tweeted. It doesn't translate perfectly in Portuguese, but he tweeted, "I'm so horny."
Wait, what?
He loves it. Loves it.
Oh no!
It is the 2 biggest fan bases, I think, right? paiN and Loud.
Yeah.
So
we'll see how NA fans treat South teams.
They will get shouted down regardless of what they do.
Well, yeah, they're going to be... Yeah, they will be introduced to their first real fan atmosphere domestically. Ever.
Yes.
That'll be nice for them.
Yeah. Like, I just love that you still get, every time before every paiN game, traditionals lining up, throwing the fists up. Like, even when they're not getting super loud during the game, which they then proceed to do, it's more than just screaming and hooting and hollering. Like, there is a connection and a routine and a culture that paiN specifically absolutely has, kind of more than anyone else, and expresses itself in many ways. And I like that the fans are that dedicated to see that level of, like, we are all going to do this together to specifically show support for our team. No one else does this. This is our thing that we do for them. And I like that. It is a great demonstration of fandom, as you kind of said, 404. It will show them how to be real gamers and real fans. So certainly a good choice for us. And like, I don't think realistically anyone is going to do better than them on balance. I don't think Red is going to do better than Loud would. And they're both going to do the same thing. Is any Brazilian team going to do better than paiN does at what paiN does? I don't think so. Like,
not right now.
No, not yet. Like, you know, I'd love for FURIA to get there, but they're not there, and they don't even really play like paiN. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same deal. So, and not having Titan would just be criminal. Let's be honest. So, we cannot deny this man. Right. That's gonna wrap us up, I think. Games continue this weekend, Saturday and Sunday this time around. We are not 100% sure what we'll be doing in terms of it. We still very much would like to cover it. We just haven't quite decided in what form yet. So keep an eye on the socials, and we will announce what we're going to do in due course once we've checked out what that's going to be, because there is already now a primary English cast for the product, which is normally our niche that we take over LTA South. So we'll see what we want to do. We'll probably still be doing something. So keep an eye out on the socials. Join us on the Discord as always to ask us questions for the next episode, because we will still be covering it. We'll still do podcasts to talk about it. We will still be tracking our LTA South teams through the event. So we would love to talk to you all about them. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you 404 and Rose especially for joining us on this episode. Hope you had a good time.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all on the weekend.